Good morning, folks. Welcome to another morning and show for Mark Business Check-In. And good morning, Henry's in Kilkenny City, Ireland. Henry, welcome on board. We're also live on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So to make sure we're all live here. So I'll tell you what I want to talk about this morning, something very important. We had a world leader make a comment last week. And Lee from Dublin's on. We had a world leader make a comment last week about dyslexia and how he's doing some antique auctioning. Very good. And I'll talk to you more about that very shortly. And he made a comment that people who are dyslexic shouldn't be world leaders because basically they're dumb. Now, to have an elected representative and someone powerful make that comment is very serious and carries a lot of weight. And someone making that type of comment without thinking it through, just to belittle someone who could be their party's opponent for the next presidential election, is really low and is really bad, right? And I'll tell you why I think it's really bad. The comment doesn't affect me because I'm dyslexic, but I know I've led a company turning over 40 million, employing 300 or 400 people. I've bought companies for £5 or £6 million. I know all that stuff. Okay, and if you're joining me for the first time, my name is Mark Beggs. So I know all that. So that doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother Richard Branson, who's dyslexic, who's running huge companies turning over billions and who's worth billions. Doesn't bother him as well. Doesn't bother him whatsoever. It doesn't bother Tom Cruise, who's dyslexic, who's running a production company when the last movie he had turned over 100 million, made him over 100 million, right? Doesn't bother really him, comments like that. It really doesn't. And why should it? It doesn't bother people who are successful and who are dyslexic and are leading companies from the front and are making a lot of money and are doing very well in business, in sports, in entertainment, or whatever field they are in. Okay? It doesn't bother them. I tell you who it bothers. It bothers children who are struggling with dyslexia, dyspraxia, ADHD, or autism. It bothers them. Because if that comment had been made in the 60s or 70s or 80s or even some in the 90s, most children would not hear about that comment because social media wasn't around. And comments like that would have got lost in the daily newspapers, who probably wouldn't even comment on that because they needed a space. But in today's world, where social media is so strong and kids are so well up on using social media and so adapt to using social media, these comments are out there for them to see very quickly. And here's the other challenge. If they miss those comments, other children who may have heard those comments and may use those comments to bully or hurt other children who are dyslexic or dyspraxic or ADHD. And that's the danger and the damage a comment like that can do. As someone who I'm connected to on LinkedIn said, one of the big challenges there is that the child sitting in the class struggling with dyslexia, struggling to learn, struggling to find out who he or she is, who are not been taught in a learning style that suits them. That child is the one that, if they hear that comment, will make up their mind maybe from a very young age that they are dumb or that they can never be a leader of a company or a country. That's where the comment is damaging. And as I said, for people like me and people around my age and younger people who have found their feet, who have done the course to help them with dyslexia, who are now in college getting the support they needed, that they need, and who have become architects, accountants, builders, solicitors, whatever, policemen, Gardaí, One of my friends in the UK leads a big organisation for dyslexic policemen. And if you look at any of my past interviews, even with the Assistant Chief of the West Midland Police, who is dyslexic, it didn't stop him getting the job he had. It didn't stop him becoming the Assistant Chief Constable of the West Midlands Police, where there's thousands and thousands of people employed in that organisation. And he's one of the top people leading that organisation. His dyslexia didn't stop him. It may have made it harder for him to achieve the job, but it didn't stop him, because he was focused and he knew what he wanted to do. But there's other younger people who will hear that comment, who are struggling and haven't decided what they're going to do in life yet, or where they're going to go, or what type of life they even want. So when they hear comments like that, it not only upsets them, but it convinces them that what other people may be saying about them is right. That's the challenge. Many dyslexic people like myself may take longer to read certain documents, but when we have read them, we never forget them. And that's important. My son, who's dyslexic, can do maths questions within 5 seconds. Last week we were out with him, and I made a comment about how the minimum wage, I think, is €14, and I said, so that would be like that. He told me how much it is a year. He had calculated it in his head. So many dyslexic people have huge strengths in different areas, and when they hear a world leader, make a comment like that about dyslexic people, it convinces them that what other people are saying about them is right. It convinces them that's why they're not doing well in the exams. That's why they're not going to do well in life. That's why they won't be able to go for that job, which is all pure rubbish. Pure, absolute rubbish. But how do we convince that person when they see a world leader make that comment? How do we convince them they're wrong? And it's very hard to convince them they're wrong. The best way, you keep encouraging them, you keep showing them how other people are doing well who are dyslexic. Not just Richard Branson, not just Tom Cruise, not just Chief Constable for the West Midland Police, not just Brent Pope and other people who have said on my podcast that they were dyslexic, right? You show them normal people who are living everyday lives who are dyslexic and doing extremely well. We run a course, my wife does, for the last 21 years, a 5-day course for people who are dyslexic. The majority of them are going on to college. They're architects, they're accountants, they're solicitors, they're barristers now, right? It doesn't stop people. So if you have a child who has heard that comment, you have to call it out for what it is, because uneducated comments like that breed uneducated people who have uneducated views. It convinces them that their uneducated view is right. They don't believe the research and all the stuff that's been shown that you cannot be dyslexic or autistic or ADHD unless you have a certain level of intelligence. So you can't have a low level of intelligence and be dyslexic. Two of them they don't work together, right? I'm always amazed when I meet people, especially children or young people. I met someone last week and they're about 18. And when it was a dad I met last week, and he was talking about his child who's dyslexic. And when I made a comment to him, well, his child cannot be dyslexic unless he has a high IQ. His eyes lit up. He went, really? Because he'd done no research yet, right, about dyslexia. But if that dad hears that world leader make those comments, he'd be convincing himself that his thoughts about dyslexia and dyspraxia and all are right, and not realising they're not. They're uneducated thoughts, uneducated comments. He hasn't done the work to see. One of the best books out there is The Gift of Dyslexia by Ron Davis, who took himself from being non-verbal autistic to who he is today, and writing and developing a course for people who are autistic and dyslexic, right? So don't listen to uneducated comments. And if your son or daughter is the one in school struggling at the moment, maybe they're going to be doing a Leaving Cert or their A levels or some exams very soon, and they're struggling on maths, they're struggling at reading, they're struggling at writing, they're struggling at remembering things, they're struggling at focusing. Maybe every Thursday their head is blown up because they've focused so much during the whole week that they'll feel that their head is going to explode or their stomach is sick as a dog. You need to explain to them that with dyslexia come massive strengths, but in order to get those massive strengths, you do have to do some type of program to give you the tools that make dyslexia work for you. It works for me. I write books. I write children's books and I write business books. And as I said, I've been involved in takeover of a number of companies. We've grown one company from 100,000 to over 40 million pounds a year and sold it to a big telco. I was a lead buy-in when I bought an advertising agency for 5 million. I've been involved in bringing huge projects to Ireland. I brought WorldPay to Ireland. I brought a whole lot of other stuff. My dyslexia didn't stop me. It didn't define who I am. I use it to my advantage. I can see problems in a 360. Good morning, Gary Helpin. So I use it to see problems from all angles and help solve problems. So if your child has heard that comment from that world leader, and if you're worried that they have, and if you're a teacher and you're worried your pupils have heard it, or you're a lecturer, you need to take a few minutes of your class this morning to tell your pupils that if they have heard that comment, that it's wrong and it's an uneducated comment. It was a comment made primarily to hurt someone in that person's political sphere who they don't want doing well. That's the primary reason that comment was made. It's as simple as that. So if you are a teacher or a lecturer, you need to explain to your class this morning the advantages of being dyslexic, how they learn differently. They're visual learners. They don't see words in their head, they see pictures. My head is like an IMAX cinema, full time, seeing pictures and hearing stuff. That's what my head is like. So you need to explain to your class this morning the advantages of being dyslexic. How the creative thinking, the creative problem solving. That's how some of the best architects in the world, the best actors, the best entertainers, the best business people, best chefs like Jamie Oliver, Gordon Ramsay, they're all dyslexic. Right? And any of them hearing that comment that world leader made, they must be just sniggering, laughing, thinking, God, he knows nothing. How can someone in a position like that come out with such educated comments? I have someone here telling me on my TikTok that they are dyslexic, but very successful. And that's what it's all about. Don't let it define you. Use it to your advantage and ignore comments from people who've done no work on it and people who are probably dyslexic themselves or ADHD themselves. So make sure if you're a school teacher or lecturer, you spend 5 minutes this morning to explain to your class the benefits of it. To encourage that person who's sitting in the back of the classroom, struggling every day, struggling with maybe reading, writing, maths, whose anxiety is going through the roof, who's worried about their future. Your comments this morning may make a huge difference in their life going forward. And that's very, very important. So thanks so much for joining me this morning. Don't forget, all our shows since the 6th of January, we do this show every morning. It's live at 7:30 every morning. We do it every morning. If you have any comments, even on LinkedIn or TikTok, anywhere, just put them on the screen and I'll read them out. And if you're on LinkedIn or YouTube and you're looking now, let me know where you're looking from, because we'd like to know where our audience is coming from. But we're live every weekday morning from 7:30 for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. We don't keep you very long, but we have covered stuff like cash flow management, business management, crisis management. I'm doing a workshop later on all about crisis management with a very strong management team to see how they will put them through the paces, see how will they survive if a huge problem hit them. And we also do, and our YouTube site that has all our free stuff on it is at Mind's Eye Education. So we have free training videos, we have free all our free shows are there since the 6th of January. They're all there. So for goal setting, cash flow management, business management, crisis workshops, marketing, PR, and a whole load of other items we've covered on the show. They're all up there, and may help you in business, may help you in life, and may help you make the week work better for yourself. And don't forget, it's Monday. If you haven't done it already, make sure you have in your diary your question of the week. Make sure you have that vital question of the week. If you're not sure what the question of the week I'm talking about, go back to one of my previous shows and you'll see. But in a nutshell, you have to put a question of the week, or it could be of the month, in your diary, that if you answer that question, it would propel you as an individual or your business forward 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 steps, right? Have that question of the week. If you don't know what it is, go back and look at my other shows and you'll see what I'm talking about, right? Because I have it in my diary. I know other people there who have it in their diaries on purpose. And they look at it every day because they'll find the answers to that question. And you'll find out how to find it if you go back and look at a few of my previous shows. Take the time during lunchtime, on the way home. They're all on podcast. Everything's on podcast. If you're going to be driving home this evening, or you're going to work this morning, or you're cycling, you're driving, whatever, in Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, just put my name, Mark Beggs, and all my podcasts will come up. And we've huge interviews there with some extremely well-known entrepreneurs and successful entrepreneurs. Many who are dyslexic, right? They're all there. They're all there. Even play them to your class. I have Simon, who was the founder of Yo Sushi, which was sold for 400 million. Simon and I had a great chat. I have Brent Pope. I have Tara Fay, who's an international wedding coordinator based in Ireland, an event organizer, running her own fantastic business that even Martha Stewart has talked about. Right? I've Martin, a chap who makes Irish whiskey on the Boston River. There's some fantastic interviews up there that may help you and help you with your day. So I'm going to say goodbye to everyone on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and Instagram. Thanks so much for joining me this morning. Really appreciate it. If you do want to make a comment now, or tell me where you are on any of those channels, do it now. It'll come up in the comments. I see other people tell me on TikTok they're from different parts of Ireland, which is fantastic. So if you're going to tell me where you are, tell me now. It'll come up before we call it a day. Of course, I'm drinking my special juice. It's honey and lemon today. I got a present of some honey from Italy, and it's absolutely the honey. It's very nice, extremely nice. So, anyone, I'm looking at both screens. Again, different comments from different ones. Okay, folks, I'm going to call it morning because we're up to 19 minutes, and I like to keep everyone under 20 on the other sites. Look, thanks for joining me this morning. I'm looking forward to seeing you all again tomorrow morning. I'll do the same thing tomorrow, Tuesday at 7:30 a.m. live on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Thanks a lot, folks. Take care of yourself. Have a great day. Do make sure you're following me. Do make sure you hit that follow button so you miss nothing, and spread the word.